The Nigerian history is replete with military influence and interest that cuts across spectrum of society. From leadership to the economy and territorial integrity, the military has indeed played a major role. While democracy has seemingly moved the goalposts in the Nigerian political space, the Nigerian military remains a major force in engendering statehood and protection of lives and property. The army dates all the way back to 1863, with 26 Chief of Army Staff calling the shots so far. The one Chief of Staff that has caught our attention on the program is one whose reign is synonymous with the Abuja regime. For some, it was a season of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And General Ishaya Bamiaiyi was not only in the eye of the storm, he also basked in the sun. Born 3rd of October 1946 in Senchi, Kebbi State, General Ishaya Bamiaiyi is the fifth of 12 children. He started cadet training in 1968 in the Nigerian Defense Academy and was commissioned on the rank of second lieutenant same year. He rose through the ranks to become the Chief of Army Staff from 1996 to 1999 under General Sani Abacha rule. While in service, he was decorated with honors and awards including Defense Service Star, Force Service Star, Meritorious Service Star, General Service Medal, National Service Medal, Distinguished Service Medal, and Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger GCON. General Ishaya Bamiaiyi served in the Nigerian military for 33 years, from 1967 to 1999, and retired voluntarily on May 29, 1999. He holds a master's degree in military arts and science and an honorary doctorate of divinity from the UMCA Theological College. His hobbies include hunting, while his favorite sports are squash, hockey, and lawn tennis. Join us as we go down memory lane as we flip through the history books with General Ishaya Bamiaiyi. So thank you so much for having us in your home. I must say it's a very quiet place, very relaxing and alluring.
You're welcome.
It flies in the face of a general. I was expecting a combatant environment, but it seemed like you have really relaxed into the civilian lifestyle.
I retired more than 20 years ago, so the tension is over.
The name General Ishaya Bamiaiyi was one name that resonated with the military for many years. I mean, growing up was a name I heard every day on television, same as your brother, your late brother Musa Bamiaiyi. May God rest his soul.
Amen.
Yes. So tell us about your growing up.
Okay, I come from Kebbi State. I was born and brought up in Senchi, a village in the rural local government of Kebbi State. As a young man, I was brought up in a Christian family. My father was a Christian, was a pastor. So I was brought up really into a Christian family with Christian background. And I'm still holding to it. And I'll continue to hold to it until maybe I return to my God.
Can we possibly say maybe the stronghold of your father's influence also probably played a role in why your convictions are so unwavering?
Yes. Maybe I can claim to be the closest child to him until he died in 1991. At the age of 2, my father was appointed a pastor in Kukum, in present Faka local government. And I remember my uncle had to carry me on his back to Kukum. Then from there, my father was posted to pastor a church in Bedi, which is also about maybe 12, 14 kilometers from Zulu town. And I lived there for 7 years. At that time, I was interested. My father had cattle, and I was shepherding the cattle until I went to school from Betty to the United Missionary Primary School, which we call UMS Primary School. I think it was one of the best schools in the whole of Zulu Emirate at that time. It was then a native authority, not local government. And I schooled there for, it used to be 8 years because you go for infant 1, infant 2, then standard 1 to 6. So it took 8 years to complete the primary school. But I was fortunate that my father was teaching me to read Hausa. So by the time I came to school, I had already advanced in Hausa language because they normally start teaching you in Hausa language, native language, until you get after 2 years, before you start taking English lessons. So, and it worked very well. I think it worked very well because it gave you an understanding of some of these English words, and when you now
just oppose them.
2 years to, I think it was a good system. Then I finished my primary school in 1961. Then I went to Bida Teachers College, one of the best teachers colleges then in northern Nigeria. It was then northern Nigeria. I spent 5 years. I went there to study for grade 3 teacher certificate. But fortunately, the northern government then made it 5 years. So go straight for your grade 2 teacher's certificate. Then I was posted to teach in a primary school in Wasagu as a teacher. But after 3 months, I saw an advert. The Nigerian Army wanted to have education instructors. So I applied. So I only had my teaching experience for 3 months. And then I joined the Army. Incidentally, I went on a hold, absent without leave, because I did not resign as a teacher up till today. I just left and joined the Nigerian Army as an education instructor. That was in May 1967. Unfortunately, the war broke up, and instead of being in the education corps, I found myself in the infantry. So I never really reported as an education instructor. I remember how we were on guard duties with my friend Colonel Issa in then General Shua's house, who was then GOC, 1 division. And they picked us by 2 a.m. from guard that was straight to Lagos. I think that was when there was a threat from the invasion of the Midwest. And then I think the rebels were trying to take Lagos then. That is how I went back to the infantry. But then there was opportunity to convert to regular combatant. And so after the war, as soon as I passed out from India, I was posted to Onitsha, 2 division. And I think my first baptism was in Ogidi when I was shot, and I still have my scar. But by the grace of God, I survived the Civil War. Then immediately after the Civil War, I was given a battalion to command as a lieutenant. Don't be surprised, because at that time, most of the commanding officers we had were really soldiers who were given field commission to fight the war. And I'm proud to say that they did very, very well. I came under command of 3 of them, and none of them failed me. They did very well. But then after the war, everybody reverted back to his substantive rank. The war ended when I was a captain, but I had to revert back to a lieutenant, what was my substantive rank. I think after that, I had the fortune of commanding 7 different battalions in my service, 3 different brigades, and of course I can say a division, because Lagos Garrison Command Lagos is now a division, so it was a status of a division. And then from there, by the grace of God and good luck, I became Chief of Army Staff.
What a beautiful story.
So,
I mean, when you started as a teacher,
yes.
did you ever envisage that one day you become the chief of army staff?
No,
Did it
no,
occur to you?
no. I never even thought of being an officer, but destiny did not allow me. But I've always had interest in the military.
Why? Why that interest? What piqued your
I
interest in the
think the
military?
truth is we have so many people in the military in my place. You hardly go to a house in my place where nobody has ever first served in the military. For example, my family were three of us. My late brother, my junior brother, Bit was late, and myself. We were all in the army. And in every family, either the father, the children, or somebody must have been in the military. So I think that is what really brought in my interest.
And speaking of a child, a son of a pastor going into the military that time, how did it come across?
Well, before I left, I went to my father. He had then retired from pastorship, and I told him that I want to join the army. And he looked at me and said, I should allow him to pray about it. And when I came back, he said, well, if that is what you want, go and join. But I remember something he told me that remained in my mind and is still there. He said, look, when you go there, stand by the truth and don't get involved in any financial mismanagement in your life. And that has been my life. And I knew if I had done that, I spent 8 years in prison, and they did everything to find out if I tampered with army money. No. But for my father's warning, maybe, I would have been tempted.
Speaking of, your every family every family having a military personnel, in their fold. Would you say it has to do with people from that area? Are they combatant by nature?
We have always been combatant by nature, and if you have read history of Kanta, there was a one Kanta, and he used to recruit our people, and that is how we got the name Dakarkari. Our name is, we don't call ourselves Dakarkari, we are Lelna, that's our dialect. But Kanta called us Dakarkari from the word Dakari. Dakari is somebody who's ready to fight, a warrior, a fearless person. So I think we have that. And I think up till now, our people don't disappoint when it comes to something like the military or fighting.
You started off as a teacher. You got into the military
As a recruit.
as a recruit
Yes.
to teach.
As a
And all of
recruit.
a sudden, you found yourself on the war front holding guns.
As a commander, as a infantry officer.
Did you miss it in any way?
If it was a mistake, it was a good mistake. I think I liked it.
And now, speaking of the Civil War, of course, you were there in the battlefront. You saw everything. You had an experience. You had a gunshot, which still lives with you. You still have the memories
Yes, I do.
that lives with you on a daily basis. What would be your take home?
It has made me understand that it is always good to live in peace. And I get worried today when I hear people clamoring for war. This one wants to break off, this one wants to break. I think most of the people who are saying these things are young men, but there are some people who really experienced the war. So I don't know why somebody will want to go back to the very bad history we had.
I would ask you this question. It may be a bit uncomfortable, but it's a question I'd like for you to answer. Now, the people who suffer the most, the victims of this war we talk about, were people from a particular region of the country. And it will seem that some people are still gunning for the same experience the second time. Now, the question is, you have seen it all, and you have talked about it at least extensively on this program. What would you think is a motivation for them to want to have a second episode of this very devastating experience?
Well, let me be very frank with you. I think as a nation, we have not been able to put our acts right. You see, we are talking of a federation, a federation, but we are not, in reality, moving forward as a federation. The Constitution itself, my personal view is not being respected. Some people are first class. Some people, I don't know, let me even say some people are classless. So what sort of justice is that?
Given your experience, word of experience, what would be your solution to this prevailing problem?
Well, we are in a tight corner. And it is not a solution. The military alone cannot solve this problem. I agree with that. But I think the military has a very important role to play if they are allowed to do their job. My conviction is this: I don't believe that the military is allowed to solve this problem.
The military as you left it when you left, and the military as it stands now, if you want to do a comparative review of the changes now and then, what would be your submission?
Well, comparison, it's good to make comparison. But before doing that, let us look at the circumstances. When we were in the military was purely on its own. We never indulged ourselves into politics. Forget about change of governments and the rest of it. It was done by people who had ambition and the rest of it. After 1999, and maybe I've touched something on something that I have to talk about now. In 1999, that is why we missed it. That was the beginning of our problems today, and I say it. And I tell you why. When you met a military, somebody with military background, take over from the military, are you not continuing with the military rule? In 1999, when General Abubakar was handed over, I remember I said, no, I will never support a military man to take over from us, because it is purely continuation of a military. It takes time for a military man to really forget aspects of his military. That's all I did. That's all I did. Besides teaching for 3 months, all my life was military. And I said, no, let us not hand over to a military man. And that's what sent me to prison for 8 years. And what happened? We went and told General Obasanjo that I did not like him, because there are some northern generals who wanted to be head of state and the rest of it. I won't go into detail. If you want that, read my book, Vindication of a General. That is what took me to prison. The same people who wanted to take over from Obasanjo, because I was told, I don't know whether it's true or not, that he promised 1 term and then hand over to them. And of course, when the man came in, you all know, he was even looking for a 3rd term. He started by destroying the military, retiring all officers who held political appointments. In the first place, officers who took military appointments were on military posting. Most of them did not lobby for it. They were posted for military duties. And some of those officers retired, I assure you, are some of the best officers we had at that time. We were not sending bad officers to govern states. We were always sending the best.
Some people listening to you now will think that, okay, probably because of your relationship with the man who was at the helm of affairs at that time, maybe you're speaking from a colored, perspective because of your relationship with the Obasanjo back in the day.
I had no idea. I never met Obasanjo in my life, face to face, until I went to see him because I asked for interview after I left prison. I went to see him. I went to see him. So I had nothing against Obasanjo. I couldn't have had. He's by far my superior officer. Those who took me to prison are my fellow Northern officer generals because of their ambition. But when I saw Obasanjo, that was the first time I met Obasanjo face to face. And I found him to be a simple person. And of course, he mentioned the names of the people. I won't mention them now. He mentioned them, and I told him, I know about it.
You've been by the sidelines watching the trajectory from that 1999, as you put it, till now. How can you give us an account? I mean, from your experience, can you give us an account of how it degenerated to the level that you have described?
If you start with the wrong step, in most cases, you find it difficult to adjust such steps. And as I said earlier, yes, it was democracy. But I don't know if there's anything like military democracy. You remember how Jonathan came in? Was it something of necessity?
A doctrine of necessity.
Doctrine of necessity that the Senate then had to use to bring him in because there was opposition. You can see that nothing has really been stable. And I remember, before Jonathan left, I was so worried about what was happening in this country, especially in the Northeast, and politically. And I called his ADC and sought for an interview. It was a Saturday. I went to the villa. The president was waiting for me. As soon as I got there, he stood up, welcomed me. I wouldn't say embarrassed, but that is when I saw humility in a human being from Jonathan. We sat down. And I told him, sir, I've come to you on two issues. One, security. I told him, sir, what is happening in the Northeast is not the best, and I'm not sure that the military is handling this thing properly. Out of concern. He could have sent me to prison again. He could have said, go and arrest him, go and detain him for coming to speak to me. And he took me. Quite fortunate he's alive. And he said, look, even he himself was worried that all the funds was given to the military. He had not seen the results. Because at that time, people were deceiving him that he was going to get 85% votes from each of the northern states. When I heard about that, I went home to Kebbi, living in Kebbi town. I saw his posters, and wherever his posters were, there were 2-3 people guarding the poster. And I told him, sir, that is not a good sign. If they are sincere about you getting 85%, there will be no reason for your posters to be guided. So I told him, sir, I think they are deceiving you. The present administration, when all these herdsmen, Fulani herdsmen started, I wrote a letter. I should have brought a copy of that letter to Mr. President, the present President General Buhari, because I had the fortune of working with him. When he was head of state, I was the commanding officer in Kefi, and I was in charge of Abuja security. And I wrote a letter. I wanted to see him. A friend of mine took the letter. When he got the handle of the letter, and somebody called me and said, okay, they are going to let me see him next tomorrow. Very early on that next tomorrow, whatever that day it was, somebody called me and they said that they are not going to allow me to see him. In Hausa, they say, Zaka ana ruwa gudu, that I will stop water from running or flowing. I understood the language, and so I kept quiet. And I never, ever applied again, because If you start having this type of things, I'm sure the president did not even know, and I'm sure he did not know that I wrote that letter.
So in a nutshell, your recommendation would be what?
My recommendation is Mr. President should try as much as possible to get the truth, get the proper intelligence reports from all his security officers, security operations, because to me, the president I know, unless something has gone wrong, is not the type of person that will tolerate what is happening. That was what Abacha was doing.
So now tell us about your relationship with Abacha. I mean, people have misconceptions about him, and some may have been formed from a place of speculation, others probably from experience. Can you disabuse the mind of those who probably have a colored opinion about this late general?
Well, first of all, let me say may his soul rest in peace. But maybe people had problems with Abacha because Abacha was not the type that will talk much. If you go to Abacha, you can sit down with Abacha and talk for 1 hour. He may not say anything. He'll just one word. That's the end of it. But tomorrow you see action. Whether against or on proposal, he's always a man of his words, of his mind. He has his own mind. But Abacha was a man who believed in the unity of this country. And go back and check all Abacha's appointees. Abacha had everybody on board. And I can tell you something today. Abacha was a person who does not care about your religion. I give an example. There was an emir from the north who came to accuse Abacha on why all his servicemen, all his service chiefs were Christians. All Abacha's service chiefs until his death were Christians. And the man came there and said, why should he surround himself with all Christians? It's not that I was told I was there. And he said, look, I work with people I believe will do the job for me. And these are people when they tell you yes, it is yes. All these speculations about Abacha stealing, I've said it, and I want to repeat. To the best of my knowledge, I cannot speak for Abacha because I cannot claim to know everything that Abacha was doing, no. But all this money Abacha loots, it's not true. Let me take you back. We were involved in wars in Liberia and Sierra Leone. And if you remember, Abacha was not in the good books of most of the Western countries. And here we were. They were blocking us sale of military equipment and the rest of it to Nigeria. And then at a meeting, I think there's one, the Minister of Finance, there was one Ani, I think from Delta also. It was agreed some of this money should be taken out so that if we had to buy arms and ammo and ammunition, we get them. And as God will have it, we had that situation. It's now gone, so one can say, so it's more than 20 years. Our troops were run out of ammunition in Liberia, Sierra Leone. And I remember they were looking for a way out. Fortunately, we had somebody, an Israeli who's now late, who promised to get us ammunition from outside. I don't know from where. Within 1 week, they flew in 2 aircraft loads of ammunition, which was taken to Liberia and Sierra Leone. That saved many of our soldiers who would have been
massacred.
They would have been massacred, yes. And where did that money come from? From the money that Abacha transferred to other places. And after Abacha's death, I have had Abacha loot. Ma'am, how much social amount recovered and the rest of it. Where is the money? Have we looted the looted money or what? The Abacha loot is just the imagination of people. And I think, and he's still alive, he was the Minister of Finance. Fortunately, I saw a write-up where he himself said money was not looted. So as far as I'm concerned, if Abacha made some money, I wouldn't know. But the Abacha loot is a lie.
So what if people then say that, oh, you're taking this position because of how favorable his regime was to you and your brother? What would be your reaction to that?
Favorable in what sense?
When you're rising through the ranks and all of that, I mean, he was there supposedly supporting you and, pushing you and pulling you to greatness.
I'm a man who can tell you that I never had a godfather. I did not need one. Nobody in this country can come and claim that he supported me to raise in the military. No. I was committed to my duty. I was doing my duty as I think best. I did not enjoy anybody's favor. The only favor I can say, I can enjoy the appointment of Chief of Army Staff because I was not the only one. And I never knew I was going to be appointed Chief of Army Staff. I never in my dream thought I'd be one.
But what would you think earned you that stripe?
Well, destiny maybe. And don't forget I told my father's prayers.
If you have to take a personal stock of your time as the Chief of Army Staff, what would you say you beat your chest about and say, yes, I'm proud I did this. I'm proud, I was part of this landmark achievement in national development?
Well, I think let me take two issues. I enforced discipline in the Nigerian Army, and that is why I had all sort of crises here and there. We used to have officers who believed they could do anything and get away with it in the Army because of their relationship with their superior officers. And so I'm glad I stopped that. I am glad I stopped that. Everybody went back to where he belonged because I had no problem court-martialing anybody if you commit an offense. And I had no problem defending any officer who was wrongly being dealt with. Secondly, I achieved a lot in the training of the Nigerian Army officers and soldiers. I can say without fear of contradiction that I was the only officer then who exercised 2 divisions within 2 years.
Is there anything you would have done differently? I mean, in retrospect now.
Well, I don't think I would have done it. I would have done it differently. I would rather say I will enforce what I did before because I think that was good. That was good for the Nigerian Army. Without proper training, you don't have an army. Without discipline, you don't have an army. So these are the 2 things I can beat my chest and say during my time, over 3 years I had the Chief of Army Staff, I achieved those 2 things.
At one time in the history of Nigeria, every day you wake up, you hear either Musa Bamiaiyi or Ishaya Bamiaiyi. I mean, you were in our consciousness every single day, every breath of the way.
It may be destiny and luck.
General Musa Bamiaiyi was somebody that, at least when you talk about the drug law enforcement agents, he was one man that, was larger than life in terms of wanting to make a difference, in tackling drug abuse. He brought it into our consciousness. He tried the best he could, from public opinion now, he tried the best he could to ensure that the fight against drug was, at least to some extent, substantiated, and there were results to also back that up. You, as his brother, What is it you will tell the public about him that we didn't know before about him?
Well, Musa's background has always been like that. As I told you, he taught me in the primary school. He was my teacher in the primary school. And it's always been like that. He's a man who does not, just like me, want to be associated with failure. And I'm sure that is why when they were looking for an officer who could handle that place, he was taken there, and I am glad he justified his being there. He's somebody, let me confess, very intelligent. But he could be ruthless. He was very fine, but Musa is not the type of person that you'll do something and you think you can get away with it. No. He was strict, but very professional in whatever he did.
What do you miss most about him?
Maybe the brotherhood, to sitting together, cracking jokes. If you meet us, you don't know he's my senior brother. Unless you know, we sit down, we are very close to some extent. And he's the only one. I remember the only thing I don't forget is that he gave me bulala when I was in primary school. So anytime I meet him, I'll just say, look, don't forget. You gave me kuboku for nothing I did not do. But it's somebody you really can trust. It's somebody you can trust.
What's the fondest memory you have of him?
Maybe the kuboku he gave me.
Fondest memory?
Yes, it's fun too. The truth is, the fondest memory that he did justice to drug issues in this country. I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud of him. Yes, we had our own misunderstanding here and there, but I think he did the family name justice. We are all proud of him.
Now, let's go into your sojourn, your time in prison. What was your take home from that experience? I mean, 8 years is no joke. Even one day in prison, I can't even imagine it.
Well, the truth is this. Let me tell you, it is what people call a bitter experience. Because if I had not gone there, if I had not gone to prison, how are you sure I would be alive? With the way that people were pursuing me. So I think God took me there to save my life. And honestly, I don't have regrets going to prison because it also changed my life.
How?
Now, our chief of army staff, right there, then has brought down, straight down to the lowest level, because prison is a leveler.
So in that time while you were there changes in your life, in your philosophy, your thinking, your perception, and your expression, at that time?
You see, it made me realize that human beings could be evil-minded. Because life in prison is so bad that even some people come in there innocent. Some of them learn robbery in prison because there's nothing you do. I had one particular boy, I got close to him. It was armed robbery. And I was discussing with him. He said, sir, I'm going to leave this prison in the next 2 weeks. I thought he was joking. And in 2 weeks, he was gone. And before he left, he came to me and I said, don't go. And they say, no. Say, sir, I cannot stop it. I'm used to it. And truly, after 3 months, he was brought back.
Oh dear.
to prison. And he said, I shouldn't worry. He's going to be here for another 6 months and he'll be out. And in 6 months he was out. That shows you there's something wrong in our maybe judicial system, police investigation and the rest of it. And he confessed, he said, sir, we have our gang. Say anytime something happens, they collect money and they go out and we get bail. And I believed him because I've seen
that happened.
Very clear what has happened.
So, but do you think the reforms that has taken place in, the prison reforms has addressed this?
Well, I hope so. The problem is this. Unless we reform ourselves, including prison officers, all the reforms we are making will be a failure. Because I confess to you, when I was in prison, there was nothing I wanted in prison that I did not get. Who was bringing it? The same prison officers.
Moving on now, let's talk about your book. You launched a book a while ago. What inspired you to take the pen, and scribble your thoughts on paper?
Well, one, I wanted people to know that there can be injustice. And there's injustice in this country. And your friend today can turn to your enemy tomorrow. And I come to let people understand that if you stand by the truth in this country, you must be prepared to pay the price. That's the price I paid. So that when such things happen, one should not bother himself. It's not the first, it won't be the last.
What other things do you do lately?
Reading. I read, and in fact, I've started my second book to follow up with this, because I think there are so many things I need to bring up.
Are you still vindicating the general? Or?
The general has been vindicated.
Okay.
So I'll look for another title now. I've been vindicated.
Okay.
So the vindication is over. I now want to go back and see things I left out that can assist not only the military, young people. My focus is a man should know that whatever happens to him does not end, life does not end there.
My relationship with General Ishaya Bamiaiyi really started as the result of my relationship with his younger brother, late Senator Daladi Bamiaiyi. He was very, very close to me. That was how I met General Bamiaiyi. And, I found myself in government where he was the chief of army staff. So that brought us much, much closer. I have never seen a military general with followership like him. All the generals believed in him. Even after the death of General Sani Abacha, may his soul be rest in perfect peace, all the generals rallied around him. All of them, probably except one GOC. It's one human being that has not been properly understood. He was very passionate about the military. He could do anything to protect the Nigerian military. And, he's a no-nonsense general. He's somebody that believes in loyalty. You cannot give him 99% and retain 1 for another person. General Babami will not take it. It's either with him or you are not with him. And that is one thing that I like about him. And he's one head of state that this nation has missed. I remember when he was incarceration, when he was in Kirikiri prison, he was terribly sick. And the court permitted him to travel outside the country to receive medical attention. I think he traveled to Dubai. It was an opportunity for him to leave the prison and also fly out of the country. While he was in prison, while he was in the hospital there, after he recovered, to a large extent, some of his friends contacted me that, look, tell General Bamiaiyi not to come back to Nigeria, that he had the opportunity to leave the country. He shouldn't come back and face trial again. It's an opportunity for him to remain outside the country until when the administration of Obasanjo was over. And I contacted him. He just laughed and said to me, Honorable, General doesn't wrong. My boys are in Kirikiri. I will not leave them. You know, that was what he told me. 2 days after, he now called me with his Nigerian line. I asked him, why was he calling? He said, well, if there's any, he has only one constituency, and that is the military. That if it means sacrificing his life, he would do it rather than to shame the military. For him to run away, he would rather, lose his life. So that was why he came back. And as God will have it, about 2 years after, he was discharged and acquitted by a competent court in Nigeria. There is politics everywhere, including the military. In fact, that of the military is even deadlier than that of the civil. Because the first to pull the trigger is always the winner. He's a grassroots man. He's always there with his people. He's also a big-time farmer. He does farming, the subsistence farming. And whatever he produces, he gives it away also. He's a very charitable person.
We are childhood friends. In fact, we started a long time ago. From childhood, we started school together. Our friendship did not stop alone, in the schools and so on. We married from the same house. The same, my wife is the immediate junior sister to his wife of the same parents. And since then we've been, sometimes together, sometimes maybe work separates us and so on. So everything about Ishaya is only how he does with his wife that I do not know, or that he may not tell me. Me and Ishaya were going to join the army when we invited Musa, just like how we invited him to the college. There was a time even they caused one commotion that almost they would have killed themselves if we had followed this. People will tell Musa this and come back and tell Ishaya this, when it is not true. Certain times, when Musa says he was told Ishaya had done this and that, I'll be the one to say, look, forget about this, it's a lie. Ishaya is free-minded. Incidentally, again, in the family, he was more loved than all others because he has a very humble heart, so free and helpful.
You've talked about something that we didn't know about your brother. You've talked about something we didn't know about General Abacha. Now, let's zoom the lens on you now. You tell us something we didn't know about you. Shock us.
Well, about me, I think all I will say is I'm a person who does not care about what anybody says about me. Sometimes maybe I'm selfish, because once I'm convinced that something is right, I do it. I am governed and controlled by my conscience. So my life now is just to assist my church and assist children I know may have difficulty educating themselves. That's what I'm looking for.
You have walked through life. I mean, you've seen the good, the bad, and the very ugly.
Yes, I have.
What would you be telling people out there? What saw you through all of this, apart from your convictions and, your father's words?
You see, hard work and this matter of conscience I've told you I have never sat down to bother myself about what anybody does to me. Otherwise, I would have had so many enemies. If I tell you I don't have enemies, you will not believe me. But I say I don't have enemies because I don't think of vengeance on anybody. Whatever you do to me, I will say, well, God will see me through. And that has been what has been helping me.
If Providence gives you another opportunity to go back in time to make some amendments and make some corrections or make adjustments to life, is there anything you would have done differently?
The truth is this, I have never had regrets in my life. So as far as I'm concerned, if God gives me another chance, I'm following the same
Route.
route.
You still become a teacher for 3 months. Go away without notice.
Yes, we did on my own. Maybe I go on my own. Honestly, I've never had cause to regret anything in my life. And I think that is why God has been so wonderful, very merciful to me. I've gone through so many things that ordinarily.
And you keep dodging the bullets.
Well, it's not the bullets now. You see, for example, I had an accident and I was 8 days unconscious. I survived that. I had an air crash when I was chief of army staff. I survived it. As you see me here, I had cancer of the colon. I was operated upon for 5 hours, and I'm now free of it. I suffered coronavirus. I was at the hospital for 2 weeks. Even governors gave up that I will not survive. So you can see that as far as I'm concerned, I'm a special child of God. I know I lost 2 of my classmates to COVID-19. So I look at myself, what else do I want from? God has done everything for me. The only thing I've not seen actually is that I'm going to die, but the good, bad, and all that you said, I've seen it all. So you can see that my gratitude to God is unlimited.
They say generals don't cry. Generals, they mask their emotions. Has there been any time where you had to unmask your emotions in life?
Yes, I think I had. And that was when I was in prison. And I lost my immediate junior brother, Petrus. And what made me cry is that he was asking everybody, I'm having my emotions now. Where I was. And when I knew I was not going to sing again, and nobody could answer that question. He knew I was in prison. So that relationship, for him to be thinking about on his deathbed, is what touched me. And I think I cried. That's something. It's something that I will not forget. That was the only time I think I cried.
And if you have to say something to him, now what would you be telling him?
Nothing, just rest in peace. That's all. And his family is in safe hands, so it's all right.
All will be well. And by God's grace, you will live.
Be there.
You will live longer than you expect, in good health. Amen. Favorite quotation?
No wahala.
Oh, is that? Oh
Well, my quotation is do unto others as one others do unto you. That is all I live for.
Great. And so on that note, I want to say thank you so much for having us come have a conversation with history with you.
I appreciate it, and I'm very grateful.
Did you enjoy the interview?
Oh, sure I did.
What part of it did you like the most?
All of it. All of it. I won't say I like it, but I think I like all of it. There are some things you touch. Kadam.
What is that, please?
Small, small.
Like where?
No. You are taking me back. We'll finish the interview.
Oh my goodness. So thank you so much, sir.
I'm
Thank
grateful.
you so much.
Thank you very much.
And so on that note, we want to say thank you so much for being part of this week's edition of Conversation with History. And we've been speaking with General Ishaya Bamiaiyi. Shared so much about his life, and I hope you've been able to take one or two things from this conversation. Until next time, when we come your way, it's been Conversation with History. I'm Fekla Wilkie. Bye for now.